What is up, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Bruin Bible, back off of a hiatus. Will Decker right here. And I am joined by a friend of the show, one of my favorite guests around, the guy who writes for 24/7 Sports, covers the Bruins specifically. My man, your favorite Mr. Iron Mike Regalado. Mike, what is going on, brother? It's great to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me back on again.
Great to have you on. It was a big week for the Bruins. We're going to be breaking down their two newest commitments. And we also really haven't touched on the Bruin Bible, specifically the two Oregon transfers that are going to be immediately helping the rotation for the Bruins. But before we get into that, we got to go to our sponsor for this week. It's BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to do the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including updated odds in the NBA and NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Mike, we got back-to-back Ethan Young tweets going boom on Thursday and Friday. Very big ones, to say the least, as well. The first of which is the number one running back within the state of California, a guy by the name of Roderick Robinson. This guy had quite a few offers. He chose UCLA over the likes of USC, Stanford, Texas A&M, Auburn, Cal, Oregon, Tennessee, just to name the few schools that offered him a scholarship. And he chose UCLA. A big reason for that, he mentioned, was, Deshaun Foster being the running backs coach that he is, wanting to get to that next level. And Deshaun Foster, having played in the NFL, knows what he's doing with that, as well as Chip Kelly just being, one of the more influential coaches within the run game. How big of a commitment is this to UCLA? Because I think this is just kind of us building upon the success of last year and starting to get back with some of these top name recruits within California.
Yeah, and before I get into the commitment itself, I mean, you hit upon it right now. Just then with the Deshaun Foster, he's proving that he can get guys to the NFL. He's proving that he can get guys 1,000-yard, seasons. I mean, the fact that he had Joshua Kelly, Demetri Felton, Britton Brown, Zach Charbonnet potentially to the NFL, and just being a high-powered running offense. It's, guys are now looking over like, okay, this is serious. You guys are, one of the top teams in the Pac-12, if not the nation in specifically, run offense. That is, one good thing that has been going right for Chip Kelly the last few years is, people will say like the team has sucked, but you got to kind of look at it in two different ways. The offense has been really good. It wasn't those first 2 years, but you saw progress during the COVID year, and you really saw a big jump last year. But it's the defense that hasn't been good. So the team collectively hasn't sucked. When it comes to the offense, it's been high powered. It's been, up tempo at times. It's just been, they'll smash through people. It has been a really fun offense to watch. So having, the one of the top running backs in the nation commit to UCLA and Deshaun Foster is, you got to give Deshaun Foster a lot of credit, as well as Chip Kelly too. This isn't, it is Chip Kelly's offense essentially. So it's how they work all together. And that's to snag a 4-star with all the criticism of the team, especially in recruiting. That was just huge for the Bruins.
Massive, to say the least, Mike. And, this is a guy that had put up huge rushing numbers, 1,300 yards last year, 17 scores for Lincoln High School in San Diego. By the way, 2 Hall of Fame running backs came from Lincoln High School in San Diego, and Marcus Allen, Terrell Davis. Hopefully, Bruins fans were getting the next one in those line of running backs. But you hit upon a very valuable point. Deshaun Foster has really risen to be one of the best running backs coaches, I think, in all of college football. You mentioned all of those guys getting drafted at a high level. And the one consistency with UCLA, the program has been up and down over these past decade. We've always been able to get running backs to that next level, whether it's Jonathan Franklin and, Paul Perkins and guys like that. The running back room has been the one solid, consistent area for UCLA where their top runner, odds are he's going to get drafted and he's going to make plays. And Charbonnet, he might have a chance to be one of the best of them. And speaking of Charbonnet, I mean, this running back is built very similar. I mean, he's 6'1", 229 pounds going into his senior year. And you're just thinking between the tackles, like this guy's going to pick up 6-7 yards on tape. This guy's beating guys on the outside in like a track meet, just the raw speed at 230 pounds. That's something you can't teach, that size and speed combination. So he's really, really exciting. Were you able to watch any tape on him?
Yeah, a little bit. And, the down, the bad thing about the tape like that is that sometimes, they're just highlights. So you get to see what they can do. Sometimes you want to see what they can't do. I think that helps out a lot of scouts as well. But even so, what this guy can do is just, like you said, very similar to Charbonnet, big dude who could just, find the holes, very smart, has good field vision. But it's also important because right now there's no real number 2 behind Charbonnet this season. You got Deshaun Morrell, who looked a lot better this spring. You have Tamarian Harden, who also looks like a bruiser, but there really isn't a clear number 2. He's going to come in and help out, help fill up that depth chart. It'll probably be tough, getting the starting, RB1 spot as a true freshman. But I think he'll definitely, contribute to it. If he bulks up a little bit, gets up to speed, quickly with no pun intended, with Chip Kelly when he comes in, whether it's next spring or next fall, he could definitely help contribute to that. So either way, still getting a caliber of running back like this is just huge on so many levels, just for talent, depth, as well as recruiting prowess, something you can puff your chest at and, say, yeah, we got this guy.
Yeah. And it just follows the trend of taller running backs that, a guy like Foster and Chip have gone for. Britton Brown, Charbonnet, both over 6 feet tall. Morrell, as you mentioned, about 5'11", 6 feet. So just bigger backs. I think that vision just helps them from a taller angle. Friday comes. So we get the big commitment on Thursday, Mike, and we're very ecstatic. And it doubles our excitement as Ethan Young comes with another boom tweet. God bless Ethan Young. He is one of the best things going on with UCLA Twitter. Trey Edwards, a big commitment in the linebacking room for UCLA, a player that I don't know would seriously consider us if it was not for the Ken Norton Jr. hiring this offseason, a guy that has proven track record success, a guy that knows what it takes to get to the NFL, played in the NFL, very similar to Deshaun Foster, right? Kids want to max out their ceilings. This is a guy that can come in there and show them the ropes to get there. The biggest thing for me, Mike, is this guy is from the modern day community. And when you think of modern day and just how much of a powerhouse they have been, it's traditionally almost always been USC players. Your Matt Leinerts, your Matt Barkleys, your Amon-Ra St. Browns, you name it. They have all really fallen the line to USC. But it's starting to build a little bit something there. We got Quentin Lake, who played for us these past few years from modern day. We're getting a guy like Trey Edwards. We're going to talk later on this podcast about Jaylin Davies, the transfer from Oregon. He went to modern day as well. How big of a commitment is this? Because, the Roderick Robinson one is huge, but to maybe start a new pipeline of, modern day players coming to UCLA, I think that is such a big thing for the Bruin fan base as a whole. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, UCLA has had success with some of those big time high school programs in the past, but like you said, nothing like a pipeline, if you will. They also, a few weeks ago, they got Ty Lee out of St. John Bosco, another big, Southern Cal program. So to go in and, really make an impression with those players, that's huge. And to get a 4-star linebacker, I was going to look this up. I didn't have time, but I wanted to see when was the last time UCLA had a 4-star true freshman come in. But either way, that's, it's big. One, because linebacker has been a bit of an issue in the last few seasons, pretty much the entire Chip Kelly era. Yeah. And honestly, a lot of that started with the Jim Mora era too. They weren't really getting the quality linebackers. But you've had guys that have been able to hold that position down, but nobody that's really kind of taking control of it. Hopefully, Trey can come in and, do that. Same deal with Roderick Robinson. If he can get up to speed, he will most likely see time. Will he be the starter? That's yet to be seen. But the fact that you have this talented, big guy that can crash the line, get in the gaps, really, get after the quarterback, and even, step back into coverage, disrupt passes, breakups, interception, whatever it is. It's really good to see that UCLA is getting that caliber player, and specifically because you have someone like Ken Norton Jr. just coming in, pounding the pavement, and just going, yeah, let's do this. We need to get some guys in here.
And I'm a UCLA homer, Mike. You know this. I mean, if there's a talented like defensive player for the past few years, and like they somehow came to me for advice or you for advice, it would be very hard for us to say, yeah, UCLA is the best place to go defensively because of guys like Azanero and, just how troubled the defense has been. I mean, we led the podcast talking about just how bad this defense has been. They're starting to build more of a foundation there. The Ken Norton Jr. hiring cannot be undersold. This guy is really going to change the culture in the linebacking room. And we got ourselves a ball player, like you're saying, a 4-star recruit. This guy chose UCLA over the likes of USC, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Oregon, big name schools. This is a huge commitment to the class. And what we were talking about, the modern day potential pipeline, right? He visited about a couple weeks ago with his fellow modern day teammate, Jeremiah McClure, a 4-star wideout that could potentially be coming too if the friendship with Trey Edwards is there. So, I mean, things are starting to trend upwards with us at modern day, man. And it's just a great sign to see for UCLA. I know all the talk this offseason has been about USC and, what they're building. And I don't want to diminish that at all, but let's get something into account too. UCLA is building something pretty special here as well, Mike.
Yeah, and it's taken 4 years rather than just one off season, but it's working. I mean, UCLA improved over the last 2 seasons. Recruiting has taken a step up. Now they're getting 4 stars. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew right now with that statement, but because these 2 players could easily go, oh, I'm opening up my recruitment or sign with someone else because they haven't signed. And the truth is that they're still going to get schools, in their ears saying, hey, you could, check us out. We have this for you. You can be this here. So it's not over, but to get those commitments, to make such an impact on those individuals that they're like, yeah, no, I'm going to UCLA. That's huge. Now, if they continue to get more 4 stars and if they get a 5-star,
yeah,
is this the world ending? Oh my gosh. No, it's just you could just attribute that to maybe a bit more hands-on approach with recruiting. Deshaun Foster, he's not an older guy like Eisenhower or even Bill McGovern. He's still effectively young. He can work. He can connect with young players just like Ken Norton Jr. But really quickly to go back on McGovern, he's actually had the fact that he's already talked with the media and is just having this upfront approach about what he wants to do. Just being honest. That seems like a culture change. If not for the media. But even the players have said, I like what he's doing. He's talking to everybody. He's not pulling us out, but he'll say, hey, when you're in that position, blah, 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 this is what you should do. This is what you got to do. Be aware of this. And so you can even see in the interviews that with the defense, they really like what is going on. So hopefully that translates into an improved defense, because if UCLA has an improved defense, that's just going to be, really good combined with that Chip Kelly offense.
Yeah, and we've said this for years, man. It's like, if you can just give me a top 60 defense, it doesn't even have to be flashy. They just got to make plays on the defensive side of the ball, get stops when they need to. This offense was the number 1 scoring offense in the Pac-12 last year. So if you can just give them some semblance of a defense out there, this team should win 9 to 10 games every year. And I think that's been the frustration of UCLA fans this past decade plus, maybe 2 decade plus, right? Since the 90s, it's been since we've been to the Rose Bowl. So, I think if we can just get that defense, we can figure it out. And Trey Edwards, I think, is a huge piece to getting there as well. Mike, I want to keep it on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to go to transfers now. And with some of the transfers, we got 2 big Oregon transfer recruits. And I can't say this enough. Chip Kelly in the transfer portal, what he's been doing has just been so underrated in terms of rebuilding his roster. It's almost like he goes into every offseason with a grocery list of players that can add to his team. That, hey, we're weak in this area. We need more players at corner. Let's go get a ZZ Hearn. Let's go get some other dudes. Linebacker, I don't know where I'm going to go with that. Darius Mawasu, come on down from Hawaii. We're losing Kyle Phillips. We're losing Greg Dulcich. I'm going to go get a Jake Bobo from Duke. time and time again, I mean, he did this last year with Charbonnet and, previously with guys like Quantrez Knight, players that meant a lot to this roster. So did it again this offseason. He got Jaylin Davies. This is a guy you were able to see in spring practice. Speaking of modern day, Mike, this guy went there. He picked Oregon initially, but transferred down to UCLA, a modern day guy. So we're starting to build some sort of pipeline there, which is great to see. Mm-hmm. Former 4-star recruit, this guy, had offers from Ohio State, kind of the who's who in the country. Only appeared in 2 games as a freshman last year for Oregon, but he's coming to UCLA with, pretty much 4 years of eligibility, given that he didn't reach the threshold of what was going on there. Mike, how big of a transfer is this, and what did you see from Jaylin Davies in spring practice?
Like you said, coming from Mater Dei, which is a powerhouse, despite the perception of the program right now, they're still churning out, big-time players. And you go from somewhere like Mater Dei to Oregon, and whether it didn't work out or not, you still had that experience. Even though Mario Cristobal is no longer there, they still made an impact. It wasn't necessarily the impact Oregon made during the Chip Kelly era, but Oregon has still been relevant. It has kept itself up at the top of the Pac-12 and in the national conversation for years. So you get that experience, and for whatever reason it didn't work out with him. The transfer for whatever reason. Sometimes they would just want to find a better place. Maybe it's not necessarily that they were clashing with the coaching staff. That happens sometimes, but whatever his reason, he now resides at UCLA, and they definitely needed some extra help because they lost some really key guys, especially in the secondary. So where he'll play, I think they lost 2 key safeties. No. Stephen Blaylock is still there.
Shaw left, Obi Ibu left, guys like that. So
yeah, and the transfer. So yeah, either way, the depth really took a hit. So bringing someone in like him, along with you even mentioned Azizi Hearn, took a little bit from what I saw for both of them to kind of adjust to see what they were doing. But to be fair, the entire defense was like that because of Bill McGovern's new system. They're not doing the striker position that Quantrez Knight made famous last season. They've basically brought that nickel position back, and Azizi Hearn has been playing more of a traditional defensive back role in that nickel spot. But Davies, he had some tough times, but he also had some he also flashed a few times too. So I just think he needs to get more acclimated to the system. I think going through fall when things start to get real, and rather than just, hey, this is practice, we're getting you all up to speed. By fall, they should all be up to speed with what exactly they're doing there at UCLA, and it's time to dig your heels in at that point and go, okay, we got a game in 4 weeks. This starts at the beginning of August. You're either fighting for the top of the depth chart, or you're not going to see time. So I think we are going to be able to see time with these guys who bring experience and talent.
I love it, man. And shout out to you too. I saw you mention Devin Kirkwood, not being the top 50. Kirkwood, retweeted your thing that you had and kind of had you out, which is really cool. And Kirkwood's a guy that's going to be a star in the secondary too. But the craziest thing for me is just how poor this secondary has been in the Chip Kelly era. And he goes out and gets 2 pretty reliable guys. Azizi Hearn is going to be probably cornerback number 1, coming from Wyoming, where he had a PFF grade over 80 during his career there. Devin Kirkwood, I don't think people are talking enough about this guy. You're proof that 6'4" corner on the outside. I mean, this guy is just built different than your average corner. And then you just plug in a guy like Jaylin Davies. This is the most talented secondary we've easily had in the Chip Kelly era. And 2 of those guys are coming from the transfer portal. So another great job by Chip to bring in some of those guys. I'm with you. I think Davies just needs to get a little bit more comfortable within the system. But honestly, this guy's probably the most talented recruit in the defensive backroom we've had probably since Darnay Holmes, So, I mean, this is a guy that's really going to be making some plays, in my opinion, when all is said and done. The other transfer from Oregon, you did not get to see because he transferred April 28th. Jalen Jeffers, offensive tackle from Oregon, 6'5", 291-pound tackle. And Mike, we just talked about that grocery list. What is needed? The offensive line group was scary. If we're talking about UCLA winning that 9 to 10 games as we project them to this upcoming year, the offensive line group's got to get a lot better. And it was tough because the top 2 tackles right now are Garrett DiGiorgio and Josh Carlin. The number 2 right tackle was Tyler Manoa, who was playing defensive tackle last year. So we needed tackle depth. You get a guy like Jaylin Jefferson, high-level 3-star recruit. And what I mean by that is this guy had offers from the who's who, as a 3-star guy, LSU, USC, Michigan, Oregon, schools like that. Played his high school ball with Damian Sellers and Quentin Somerville, 2 Saguaro High School guys as well who are on the UCLA roster. Give me your thoughts on Jaylin Jeffers, because I just think this is a great depth piece add who's going to probably be pairing with Raekwon O'Neal to come in and compete for those starting tackles positions, which is sorely needed because the experience is not there. And from everything I read during spring practice, the offensive line was chaotic to say the least.
Yeah, it was depth was the biggest issue that you could just see. There was only 11 guys. That's not even close to having a 3 deep. That is a 2 deep and some change right there. And that's bad because you're going to have to be shuffling guys around if like maybe 2 guards, both left guards get injured and fall, God forbid. And then you're going to have to move either a guard or a tackle to that position. So yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong with depth, and especially in a physical game where the most physical hits take place on the line, you need a lot of depth. But UCLA they had some injuries. We still haven't seen Sam Marazzo. He has experience. He could be the starting center. So, there's hope for that. There was a walk-on. I'm blanking on his name right now. But he tore his ACL. I remember seeing this was like in the 2nd or 3rd practice. All of a sudden, you just see a guy down on the ground and it's another big guy. It's like, okay, how many hits they can take? But they're missing some guys. They didn't have Sam Yoon, their only offensive line commitment this past year. They have Raekwon O'Neal, which you just talked about. I honestly think that even though he hasn't been on campus yet, I believe that he's going to be the starting tackle. Tyler Manoa, he looked better, and he actually moved into the moved in with the ones, not consistently, but he was playing more with the ones a lot in the last week and a half of practice. So they're trying to get some guys back. There's some injuries, but they definitely need to get more offensive depth, and that's so now going to Jeffers, bringing that depth in. How can he help participate immediately? Let's hope like at least he can get some good reps, with at least the 2s, because even if you have a guy that would potentially be starting, I've often seen that a lot of the new guys, the transfers, usually start with the 2s just to get acclimated. Hey, watch what that guy
system a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So. Left tackle 1, it's like, watch what he does, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow. You're doing better than him. Well, let's set you up, as a starter for this next practice. A lot of things can happen, but having Jeffers in really helps out with the depth. So hopefully he can use, his talents to not just, crack the starting lineup, but to push other guys. The one of the big things I've heard, phrases since even the Mora era is iron sharpens iron. And you definitely have, a defensive line, which a lot of people thought would be take a hit too, but then you add the Murphys and they just bring, an explosive element. You have Carl Jones on the other side with them on the 4-man front, and that just looks dangerous. So if you have these guys really pushing the offensive line, that's going to get them up to speed, sooner than later.
When half your starters projected wise are, transfer players, specifically on the defense, a lot on the offense, that means you're doing something right in the transfer portal. And Chip Kelly continues to blow us away with that. You mentioned an interesting name, Sam Yoon. He's going to be an incoming true freshman into the fall. He'll throw his name into the mix. I don't know if I'm expecting Sean Ryan quite results, come on campus day 1, be the left tackle starter, but that's just another guy that can, iron sharpens iron, push the pile a little bit, make people work for that starting job. So Sam Yoon, we are excited to have you at UCLA, man. We hope you tear it up. Mike, this was so much fun as always, dude. You always bring the best energy out. Just moved to LA too, so we have got to go out and grab a beer at some point.
Done.
Make it happen, man. You got to show me all the bars around here and things like that.
Show you all the good Mexican food spots.
Oh, dude, say less, man. I need as much as I can, like on the Mexican food front. So
nice.
Mike, the greatest guest I can ask for. Thank you for coming on. Bruin Bible fans, we have a very, very special guest coming on Tuesday. Martin Jarman will be making his appearance in the Bruin Bible.
Nice.
So we're really pumped. Bruin Bible, we are a